Hi friends, Sid from SiD's Impressions. So today the topic I wanted to handle or talk about is coming up with that first prototype of yours, especially for apps, mobile apps. That's what I wanted to focus about, particularly because I'm quite passionate about building applications for the mobile and the tablet and for the desktop, mostly for mobile phones. So and I'm pretty sure most of you actually have some sort of an idea that you think can translate into a mobile app, whether it's for Android or iOS, it doesn't matter. If there's something that you have at the back of your mind or even at the front of your mind that you want to create into an app, it's not really a complicated process to come up with that first prototype which you can use for either fundraising or to speak to developers and get your co-founder and get the idea out there and get some sort of validation. So there's no point in you building something which then ultimately doesn't get used by anyone. So the first thing you need to do is get some sort of validation. It doesn't have to be from 100 people, even if it's 10 people, as long as you have 7 people, a majority of them who actually are not biased in some way, so they're not friends or family. So 7 of them who are strangers, people you meet at a coffee shop, somewhere random. And it could be people who are friends of friends. But remote, so as much as possible, ensure that they are not biased. And then the remaining are either friends or family. So that way you have a good mix of people who can give you the exact answer, and then you rely on your friends to give you honest feedback. So the first thing I would ask you to do is write down the app idea in its simplest form. It doesn't have to be a social networking app which can do this, that, and this, but something in its simplest form. If it's a social media platform, then write social media platform with why it's different from Facebook or Twitter. Okay, so write the idea in its simplest form that you can relate to and doesn't seem complicated. Because the more you complicate it, the more the willingness for you to do it, to get to that second stage, is going to be lesser. So keep it as simple as possible and write it down so that you can understand, and you can just read it off to someone and it immediately strikes them, right? Write it down in verbal format in the simplest form possible, step number 1. Step number 2 is speak to as many people as possible in the next 2 to 3 days. Set yourself a target of maybe 10 people, 15 people, or 20 people, and like I mentioned, break it down into mostly unbiased people and a few possibly biased people, friends and family who mean good for you. That way you would have gotten some sort of verbal validation that, hey, this seems like a good idea, I would use it. And they might also give you scenarios in where they would use it or not, right? You get some sort of validation that, okay, this is a good idea, or maybe you need to tweak something. It's never a bad idea, right? That's step number 2. Step number 3 is ask for alternatives. What are they currently using instead of what you are going to build? So there must be something that they're already using that they feel suffices that particular need that you were trying to fill again. So what is it that, and that's probably going to be your competition when you put out your product, right? So you need to understand what are the products that they're actually using today in order to make sure that you stand out from the crowd. That's step number 3. Step number 4, and this is extremely crucial, simple, easy, yet it can be complex. But I'll show you ways in which it can actually be made simple and easy to do. So the next thing is actually the visualization part, right? You need to make it in some form which is moving away from words and now into pictures. So all you need to do is just basically draw out the screens of your app on paper, right? Simple ways you can see I've done something here is for my own app, the Stories app. I've actually brought down screens into different, each and every screen is jotted down here. They're not as elaborate as I would want them to be, but this is the first stage that you could come up with. So that's like the first stage. Okay, the onboarding screen, and then the sign up screen, so on and so forth. So that's a way in which you can actually prototype on paper. Just jot down the ideas as simple screens, one screen after the other, and do it with pencil and paper, just as simple as possible again. And once you do that, you get an understanding of what the flow is going to be, and try to mimic as much as possible the ones which are popular. So look at Facebook, look at Twitter, look at competition and see how they're doing it. You'll get an idea of how yours should be or how yours shouldn't be. So that's your third step, if I'm not wrong. And then the fourth one is use these tools called POP, that's Prototype on Paper, or Marvel. So these are 2 apps, both from the same company. Marvel actually bought Overpop. Use them to click pictures of these and you'll be able to simulate the app in its true form when it finally comes up. Of course, given that it's not going to look as beautiful as it finally should be, but this is basically your photographs of the picture that you've drawn simulated to look like an app the way it will flow. I'll leave a link to the app that you could use for this prototyping, and I hope this helps. Show it to people once you're done with this. You can actually show it to more people, get some additional validation. This is a process where you can actually go ahead and meet developers. You might meet investors and developers and find your co-founder, and then you can take this to the next level. I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, please do let me know. I'd be happy to help and let you know how I work on my projects. Thank you. Bye-bye.